How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to day 3 of the Trading Induction program here on my channel. Today we're going to be diving into the key trading terminologies that one needs to understand and be aware of in order to not get mixed up with all of the different terms that are thrown around here, there, and everywhere online. I know for myself personally, back in the day, I was a little bit overwhelmed with all of the terms that were being said. And when I'm watching webinars and videos online, I'd have to go and refer to my notes to decipher what was being said. So hopefully I can expedite that process and give value in that way here. So in my last video, I was a little bit monotone, so I'm going to try and bring a little bit more life to these videos, and maybe even throw in some background noise on this one. So let me know if it's too loud, too much, or too little. But getting stuck into it, we're going to go straight into the first heading, which is orders and executions. So this is quite the important topic. Now, firstly, we have long and short. And basically what that represents is when we're buying or selling an asset with the expectation we'll see a price increase or price decrease respectively. So when we're executing a position in the market with the expectation of price moving to the upside, we're going long. And when we're executing a position with the expectation that the market will go to the downside, we're selling and we're short the market. Moving on to a bit more of a executional standpoint, when we're executing an order against the broker, we're quoted with the bid price and the ask price, and what that is essentially the highest price a buyer is willing to pay, which is the bid price, and the lowest price a seller is willing to accept for an asset, and that's the asking price. So there's a bit of a distance between the bid and the ask. And what that's called is the spread, and that's just the difference between the bid and the ask price. So to visually exemplify what that means, what we have here is a price ladder or an order book, whatever you want to call it. And below market in the green, we have the buy limit orders sat below market. And in the red up here, we have the sell limit orders that are waiting above market for people to sell. And then in the middle, you have this bid and the ask spread price here. So in our little example, we have a bid below market at $95, which represents the highest price a buyer is willing to pay for this asset. And then above market, we have $105, which is the lowest price a seller is willing to sell this asset for. And then the $10 difference between the bid and the ask price is the spread. Now, when it comes to trading like these deep liquidity pools such as Forex, the spread can jump around through the session changes, but nothing too crazy. Whereas on the flip side, if we're executing a position in something like a decentralized exchange with like a meme coin that has a very thin liquidity and a thin market to it, we could be looking to market execute at market, but because the spread between where the market's currently trading at and the next asking price, you could be getting filled so far away from where it is that you want to execute, just because there's no buyers and sellers and that are close together on this order ladder. So the spread is really large. That $10 spread is could be massive on these thin pools of liquidity within these different exchanges. So it's always very important to take note of what that spread is and just be aware of where the bid price is and where the asking price is when executing on these thinner markets. But nevertheless, a very important topic to understand, and one that we'll cover a bit more extensively in a future video. Now, market environments, what we firstly have is bullish and bearish markets, and what that represents is the market that is expected to either rise or fall respectively. So a bullish market, we're expecting the markets to go to the upside, and a bearish market, we're looking for price to move to the downside. Now, the way in which that has come about back in the day, I believe it came from the terminology that the bulls strike from the downside to the upside, and then the bears jump up and strike to the downside like that. So when we're looking for the markets to go up, we're bullish, we're attacking from the underside, and when we're bearish, we're shorting, and we're looking for the market to go down, we're attacking from the top side. So that's a little bit of the story behind where bullish and bearish and the battle of the bulls and the bears come from. A trending market is a market that is primarily trending in one direction or another. So in an uptrend or a bullish market, we're making a series of higher highs and higher lows. We're trending to the upside. and vice versa. We are in a bearish market that's heading to the downside. It's making a series of lower lows and lower highs, and we're trending to the downside in a bearish manner. Now, moving on to the range-bound and consolidating markets. These are markets that are not making higher highs and higher lows, or lower lows and lower highs. Rather, it's price trapped between two price points, and it's just moving sideways like Bitcoin has been doing for the last God knows however many weeks and months. It's just not doing a whole lot. It's indecision. It's equilibrium between buyers and sellers. The battle between the bulls and the bears isn't going in anyone's favor. It's just moving sideways, and there's really not too much going on. Now, moving over onto risk management, one of my favorite topics, specifically with regards to the risk to reward side of things. One thing we need to understand is the risk to reward ratio, and what that means is the ratio which shows the risk to reward factor when using the entry, stop, and the target price points. It's all well and good saying I've made $5,000 on this trade, but what was the risk to reward factor? Did they make $5,000 by risking $20,000? You know, and then it's like completely out of whack. It doesn't make any sense. So risk to reward factors allow us to identify and visualize how a trader is positioning themselves within the markets relative to their risk and relative to their reward. Risk factor is an R multiple derived from the risk on the table on each trade, defined as 1R. And then the entry, stop, and target are predefined price points that will exit the position in either a profit or loss, or obviously the entry is where you get in. Now, I have another diagram to analogize it or exemplify. It's an example, a demonstration. So say we have a market that we have just executed an entry order at $100. We have our stops at $90, which means the difference between the entry and the stop price is $10, which is signaling and indicative of 1 unit of risk, or 1R. Say, for example, we're risking 1% on our £100,000 account, or $100,000 account. We're risking $1,000, so $1,000 is equal to our 1R, or our 1 unit of risk. It's just a way of I gotta stop saying that word. It's a way of separating the price points and the risk factors and the ratios away from the financial side of things. What we want to do is want to avoid looking at the monetary side of things when we're analyzing and executing positions, and look at it in ratios such as risk to reward and units of risk. So in this example, from $100 down to $90, that represents $10, which is of a price movement, and that is 1 unit of risk, which equates to $1,000 on the table that we can lose if price hits our $90 downside stop loss target, stop loss. Now, on this trade, you're looking for a target at $110, which is $10 price fluctuation in our favor. And that indicates 1R, or 1 unit of risk. But in this example, it's not risk, it's reward. So plus 1R as reward. Now, because we're risking $1,000, 1 unit of risk, or 1R, is $1,000. So that means we're standing to gain $1,000, or 1 unit of reward in this position. Now, going back to what I was saying about these people saying they made $5,000 on a position, but maybe they risked 20,000, you could very easily see that they're now risking 1R to make 0.25, which is a negatively geared risk to reward ratio, as opposed to our baseline minimum that we want here in this example, which is a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio. What we don't want to be doing is trading less than a 1-to-1. We want to make sure that any position that we execute, we want to be making at minimum a 1-to-1 on our investment. So if we're putting 1,000 in, we want 1,000 back on these positions. Now, that obviously doesn't go into the spot holding side of things. This is specifically the CFDs and the futures, and when we're trading intraday, swing trading, that kind of thing, where we're getting in and we're getting out. We don't want to go below a 1-to-1 risk to reward. Now, say for example, we actually had a $120 upside target, which is $20 away from our entry. we know that we have a $10 representation of 1 unit of risk. So that means the price fluctuation to the upside to our target is 2 factors of risk, or 2R multiple. And because we've got $1,000 on the table representing that minus 1R, suddenly now that becomes a 2,000. We're standing to make $2,000 or plus 2R, 2 units of risk, and that would equate to a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio, which is ideally where we want to be playing within. We don't want to go less than a 1-to-1. 2-to-1 is fantastic. 3-to-1 is even better, and sometimes you'll get those golden 4-to-1s, 5-to-1s, and even 6-to-1 risk to reward ratios, which is really where the profitability can ramp up quite significantly. So that was the diagram. Now, in terms of the fundamental and economic terms that you'll definitely hear thrown around the place, especially when searching forums or news articles. Risk on, risk off. This is alluding to a market environment where investors are willing to take on more or less risk and often buying higher risk or lower risk assets respectively. So, for example, in times of crisis, in times of war, markets on a global scale tend to head into a risk-off environment where the risks are higher, so that the investors are not putting their money into the higher risk asset classes, and they're storing their money in more of the safe havens until the geopolitical or whatever is going on in the world calms down, and then we can step back into a risk-on environment where people are willing to invest into those more higher risk assets like the stock market and things like that. Now, another one you'll see here and there is hawkish and dovish. This refers primarily to the monetary policy. So with your Forex Factory calendar that you're looking at, when you see the Fed speeches and Jerome Powell going out on stage, what you'll find is a lot of the people are speculating whether he's going to take a hawkish or a dovish stance. And what that basically means is that he's either favoring the increasing or the decreasing of the interest rates in order to either combat inflation or stimulate and grow the economy based on whatever the circumstances may be at that point in time. So unless you're really into the fundamentals and tracking all that, it's probably going to be used not so frequently, but definitely want to stay aware of, so that you can just understand what's being spoken about when it comes to those financial conversations in the world. Now, in summary, what we've done is we've discussed, and I've laid out some of the major terminology that one will need to understand and know in order to not get lost in all of the speaking and the language that comes along with the trading. We went over the orders and executions, which is the long and the short positions, the bid and the ask, and the spread. We went over the market environment, so bullish and bearish. The bulls attack from the underside, so the markets are going up, and the bears are attacking from the upside to the downside, so we're in a bearish market. Risk management, this is the risk to reward ratios. This is the the R multiple, or the risk factor. We also had the fundamental economic risk on, risk off, hawkish and dovish scenarios there. So that was me wrapping up the key trading terminologies. And then tomorrow, day 4, we're going to be going over the position and order types, which will shine a bit more light in what I mean by the CFDs and the spot holdings and the futures contracts and things like that. That's where we'll be diving into what they all represent, what they all mean, and how we can invest our money in different ways in order to have a different kind of an investment experience, as well as some of the order types, whether that be the market executions, limit orders, and stop orders, so that we can position our money in the markets in a specific way relative to where the market currently is, to give us the best entries or more confirmed entries. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you're enjoying the series so far, and I will see you tomorrow for day 4. Thank you.